Welcome to today's webinar, Attract More Patients to Your Healthcare Organization, how Ochsner Health System leverages technology to proactively manage online reputation, and how you can too. My name is Jane Weber Brubaker, and I'm the editor of eHealthcare Strategy and Trends. I'll be your moderator for today's webinar, featuring panelists from Reputation.com and Ochsner Health System. The question our panelists will address today is, how can you ensure your organization is part of the consumer's considerations set when seeking a provider? In today's presentation, you'll get a roadmap to an improved online funnel for new patients. In addition, Ochsner Health System will share how it uses technology to proactively manage its online presence and ensure it is a strong contender. And now, I'm delighted to introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Lindsay Neese Burton, Healthcare Marketing Director at Reputation.com. Lindsay spent more than a decade as a healthcare marketer at large academic medical centers in the Southeast, focused on developing marketing strategies for consumers and referring physicians. Now, as part of the Reputation.com team, Lindsay helps healthcare organizations create digital strategies and leverage online feedback to meet their goals and ultimately improve patient care. Joining Lindsay is Amber Welch, Director of Digital Content at Ochsner Health System. In this role, Amber steers digital strategies from web user experience and design to social media and reputation management. Her goal is to drive patient conversions and empower the online health seeker with the information they need to manage their care. With over a decade of experience in managing website content and online communications channels, Amber thrives on finding new ways to empower the online patient. Our speakers will present for approximately 45 minutes, followed by a 15-minute Q&A. To submit questions, please type them into the GoToWebinar control panel and hit send. We will hold questions until the end, but please feel free to submit them at any time. Today's session is being recorded, and at the conclusion of the webinar, we will send an email to all attendees with a link to the presentation slides, and you will receive a link to access the recordings as soon as it has been processed and available for viewing. And now, I'll turn it over to Lindsay Neese Burton, our first panelist. Lindsay, please go ahead.
Thanks, Jane. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here and to have Amber co-presenting with me. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of her story and what her team is doing to be the top choice for consumers looking for care in her region. Before I dive in, I want to provide a little bit more background about myself. I joined the Reputation.com team almost exactly a year ago today, and prior to that, I sat in the shoes that many of you are in, developing marketing and digital strategies for a healthcare organization, and then trying to sell those strategies to the internal stakeholders. So I've experienced firsthand what it's like to work with physicians and with healthcare administrators and bring them along with the ever-changing role of digital marketing. I also know how sensitive online reputation management is in healthcare, and particularly when we're talking about the reputation of a person or an individual doctor online. I know that there's varying levels of support for physician ratings and reviews, and that each organization has a bit of a different comfort level with reputation management. And then there's also the sensitivities around communicating with patients online and making sure that you're ensuring patient privacy. I came from an incredibly conservative organization where these challenges were difficult for us. But they're really important challenges that you're dealing with, and as a healthcare marketer, I want to assure you that this is work that is worth doing and it's worth pushing forward in your organization. So my goal today is to share with you data and market trends that are going to help you make the case for managing your organization's online presence and your online brand. I'll share a healthcare marketer's digital blueprint, and that's going to help guide you as you develop a plan for how to create a solid online presence. And then Amber's going to share Ochsner's experience implementing a reputation management program and what a key component this program has become of their overall digital strategy. Healthcare marketing is evolving. I think we all know that. It's been evolving since I started nearly 15 years ago. And while it's not in the same place as consumer product goods or other services like travel or hospitality, most health systems marketing strategy has a significant digital focus. And this makes a lot of sense because we know that consumers want to interact with us online. Digital is making patients feel more and more empowered to look for a doctor themselves, to evaluate their options based on the information that they have at their fingertips, and to even book an appointment online. And with this digital shift, we've seen that an organization's brand has moved online, and it's now almost entirely defined by the customer or by your patients. Most of this branding is happening off of your website and on third-party sites and on listing sites in the form of ratings and reviews. So patients who are at the decision-making point are online, they're evaluating their options, they're Googling doctors and they're Googling services, and how your organization shows up online is going to affect your ability to drive new patients in the door. So more and more what we're seeing is that patients aren't even visiting a hospital or a healthcare provider's branded website before they make an appointment. So it's not just the website that you own and that you control that needs attention, but it's sites across the web where patients are looking for doctors and for healthcare information. Patients are creating your brand for you online, and this means that your marketing efforts have to account for making sure that the patient can easily find you, and that when they do find you, what they see reflects the brand that you've worked so hard to build. Because what we're seeing is that reputation is influencing behavior in healthcare very similarly to what it's doing in other industries. We all have our own way of looking and identifying what's important, but it's undeniable that ratings and reviews are part of most people's decision process when they are making a purchasing decision or evaluating a product or service. When I was at Duke, we did quite a bit of research to really understand the consumer decision-making process when people are looking for a provider. And what we saw is that people are looking for doctors and locations online in two senses. First, for services that they feel comfortable booking themselves, like primary care or eye care or OBGYN. In these instances, they're gathering recommendations from families and friends, and then they're doing their own research online before they book an appointment. And then on the other hand, when patients are looking for a provider for a more acute condition like cancer or heart or surgery, they're almost always asking for a referral from a doctor first, but then they go online and they look up that provider or providers to validate that referral. And often they're getting multiple names of physicians to look up multiple people and see which one they would prefer to go to. So what they find about the provider when they do this research determines whether or not they're going to show up to the appointment. One of the primary things that they're using to evaluate doctors when they're doing this research, whether they're booking the appointment themselves or validating a referral, is online reviews. In a research study that we conducted this past year of healthcare consumers, we found that 82% of consumers have read online reviews to evaluate a healthcare provider. 82% is huge. This is no longer an up-and-coming trend. This is something that is here. 80% claim that ratings and reviews influence their choice of a provider. So consumers are no longer just reading reviews, but they're also using these reviews to gain intel and to form opinions about who they see for care. 68% of consumers have selected one provider over another provider based on ratings and reviews, which means that online reviews are steering consumers' decisions on who to see for the care that they need. I think that this is really compelling. The vast majority of healthcare consumers are using online reviews in their decision-making process. The only problem is that the majority of this online searching, this provider research, and this decision-making behavior is not happening on your website. So there's the infamous Pew study, I think all of us know this one, that shows 77% of healthcare consumers start their search for health information at a search engine. In our research study that I referenced on the previous slide, we found that less than 10% of people start at a local hospital or doctor's office website when they're looking for care. So where are they starting their searches? As I mentioned, search engines. They're also looking at health insurance websites and at third-party sites like Healthgrades and Vitals. But there's a bit of a discrepancy here because healthcare marketers see their own website as their virtual front door. And while most of you probably feel like your website is incredibly underfunded and it's under-resourced, the bulk of healthcare marketing digital efforts are still focused on their brand's website and driving people to that site, which is creating a gap, and it's presenting a challenge because it's not congruent with where patients and potential patients are looking for you, which is almost always off of your website. Marketing is hyperlocal, and this means that consumers are looking for you online and that their locations are being tracked. Most of the searches are happening on mobile now. So the results that they see when they do a search for a doctor or a clinic are tailored based on their physical location. In healthcare, hyperlocal marketing is more challenging than a lot of other industries because each location and each provider has an online presence and an online brand on many different sites. We know that most healthcare consumers are searching for doctors when they look online and not clinics or hospitals. This was evident in the consumer research that I participated in when I was at Duke, and it's being further validated today, which means that it's really important that you're maintaining accurate data for each doctor and each location at your organization. But for most healthcare organizations, this seems like an incredible challenge, maybe even an impossible challenge, particularly with the relatively small teams that most of you have. Each doctor in each location has multiple points of presence across the web, and consumers are leaving reviews for these providers and locations on multiple different sites. This can add up to thousands and sometimes millions of brand messages very, very quickly. And these brand messages are everywhere that consumers look. They're in the search results, they're in the near me search, they're on maps, they're in social, and they're even starting to play a role in voice search. Star ratings and reviews are in your face, and as I said earlier, they're being used to make decisions. For maps and for near me searches, the order of the listing order below the map is influenced by the number of reviews and by the recency of the reviews. So what we're seeing is that if a business doesn't have any reviews, it will fall to the bottom of these lists. And businesses with more reviews and more recent reviews are prioritized to the top of the listing. And this is what I'm talking about right here. So as a healthcare provider, it's really key that you understand what people are saying about you, that you acknowledge what they're saying, and that you even participate in online reviews so that you can prominently show up on the map and be easily found by people that are looking for you, but also so that you can be discovered by people that may not know about you yet or who may be doing a more general search. So as healthcare marketers, you're pumping money into advertising and brand building. You are making sure that when somebody needs a provider, that you come up top of mind. And when a consumer Googles a doctor's name when they have a healthcare need, they're confronted with the doctor or the location's ratings and reviews. Patients are reading these reviews and they're making decisions based on them. This online reputation, your online brand, is standing in between your marketing spend and your ability to drive revenue. If it's positive, it can reassure patients who want to make an appointment that you're the right provider for them. But if it's not so positive, it could possibly block patients from walking in the door or from scheduling an appointment. So I think I've built a pretty good case for the importance of being easily found online and how reviews are influencing patient behavior. But now I'm going to talk a little bit about the gap that we're seeing with online reviews in healthcare and the fact that consumers' online needs just aren't being met. So we did an analysis of all the doctors we could identify on Google. We basically scraped the data from Google My Business for anyone who had physician credentials associated with their name. And we analyzed all of these thousands of Google listings. And keep in mind that some of them are, officially claimed, they're monitored and they're maintained, but a lot of them are not. If you recall our consumer research study that I mentioned before, in this study we found that 80% of consumers want to read 6 or more reviews to fairly assess a provider. But our analysis of doctors on Google showed that 77% of doctors have 0 reviews on Google. So 23% have reviews. We also heard from consumers that they want to read reviews that have been left within the past 6 months. But of the reviews on Google for doctors, which again, only 23% of doctors have reviews, they average 9 months old. So we're just not giving patients what they want and the information that they need to make informed decisions. And this is likely affecting your bottom line because 2/3 of consumers will wait longer for an appointment with a doctor with better online reviews, and patients are willing to pay more to see a doctor with better reviews. And particularly, this is true with the millennial audience. So as a healthcare marketer, you're faced with the decision of what to do with online reviews and with your online brand. Is your organization going to listen to what your patients say online and try to meet patients where they are? Or are you going to try to ignore it, knowing that it's causing a growing barrier that could lead to issues both acquiring new patients and possibly retaining existing patients? Okay, so how do you deal with this and kind of where do you start? I'm sure it can feel overwhelming. I know that when I was in this situation, it was incredibly overwhelming. Solving it is intimidating, it seems expensive, and it seems like a ton of hours of work. But it doesn't really have to be. So I want to talk you through kind of a simple phased approach to how you should begin to address your organization's digital footprint and manage your online presence. So first and foremost, you have to get a handle on your organization's data. You need to establish accurate and maintained data for all of your doctors and your locations, and you have to push it out to review sites and to data aggregators. Next, you need to engage with your patients online. You should be monitoring, responding, and even requesting reviews from your patients. And I know firsthand that this recommendation may raise red flags and it may create a lot of questions about how to do this while also respecting patient privacy. Because we're always thinking about patients first, and we're always trying to maintain patient privacy, and that is the right thing to do. But I have to tell you from experience that this can be done, and it can be done very well. I think it's really important that you get buy-in from your physician group and you have a physician champion. You need to partner closely with your patient relations team, and you also should be working with your legal and your compliance team. Because remember, this is a really personal matter for physicians, and I know that they want their online brands to reflect the true quality of care that they provide to their patients, and often it's just not reflected in their online reviews. We're seeing more and more that physicians are asking for this support from their marketing teams and from their organization. And the great news is that when you start to engage with your patients online, when you start to understand what they're saying about you online, you have incredibly valuable information about patient care that you can share with your operations team. So it's totally a two-way street with marketing and operations. You as a marketing team are now providing this deep, rich, valuable data that can empower your operations team, and it can improve patient experience. The data often already exists out there for most of you, for most of your providers, for most of your location. The data is there. Having the right system in place that lets you analyze it using things like natural language processing, you can identify strengths, you can identify opportunities, you can watch trends, and you can make changes to optimize how you're delivering care to your patients. So I'm going to walk through each of these points very quickly, and I'll also be turning it over to Amber after I kind of set up the point. So we'll be going back and forth a little bit in this next section. So at the core of your organization's online presence is ensuring that you've got the right data out there for every doctor and for every location to populate your website, and also to populate the information on third-party sites. It's really the foundation of your online brand, and it's going to help you drive search engine optimization. This is something that my team really struggled with for years in my previous role, and it's something that we've heard our clients across the country voice their frustration with. We've created a directory management and a doctor finder tool that can help healthcare organizations with their data management problems. This tool, it allows you to create a source of truth for all of your doctor and your location data. There's an unlimited number of data fields that are customizable and where we can store rich profile information. It also integrates with key internal databases where we're pulling the data from. The Doctor Finder tool is built off of the directory data, and it powers an integrated and very easy to use consumer-facing Find a Doctor. And what's unique about our tool is that because it's entirely integrated, you can pull in ratings and reviews as well as push data to third-party sites and that's all done automatically, which means that for all of the doctor and location information on your site, it's also shared across the internet with search engines and with third-party sites where we know that the consumers are looking. So this consistency means that your website is going to come up higher in search, which drives more traffic and more conversions on your site. And that kind of speaks to my last point here about managing business listings, allowing you to create and claim pages on all of the major listing sites. Our platform automatically identifies any duplications or inaccuracies and fixes it. And the data is maintained with nightly auditing, so it's continually updated. Now I'm going to hand it over to Amber to tell us about Ochsner Health System and explain how they've worked toward establishing a strong and very consistent online presence. Amber?
Thanks, Lindsay, and I'm very excited to be here today and kind of share Ochsner's story and our process of how we've really used Reputation.com to build a fully executed consumerism strategy around business listings, ratings, and reviews. So a little bit about Ochsner to start. We are a health system. We're the largest in the state of Louisiana, moving into Mississippi and the Gulf South. We have 30 hospitals, 80 health centers, and 1,200 employed physicians. And that does not include all of our community partners as part of our network. So we have about 3,000 physicians total, including our community partners. So we have partnered with Reputation.com to manage listings for the following areas. So all of our 100 plus locations that we own and manage and 400 plus providers. And we chose that magic number 400 because we wanted to start small. So you'll notice it doesn't cover our full 1,200 employed. We really wanted to get a hold of our data, so we prioritized who those providers would be based on service lines, Center of Excellence service lines. And it really helped us to kind of kickstart the program and get a good feel for it before we started to grow it out to the entire system. We also integrate our 100 plus Facebook pages. So with having 100 plus locations, we also have a lot of Facebook location pages where a consumer can check in. So we did some work on our end to claim all of those and then wrap them into the Reputation dashboard, which really allows us to manage those all in one place. Before we move on to the next slide, I wanted to give a little bit of information just about my team and kind of go back to Lindsay's point of how lean we are as well and how Reputation really helps us with the hours and hours of work it would take for such a small team to manage all these listings. So the team is myself plus 6 others, and we really only have 3 people managing the Reputation program. It's mainly myself and then 2 others that help coordinate. So I wanted to give you, just a scope of our size. In an organization as big as we are and as fast as we're growing, we have a lot more, irons in the fire this year of bringing in partners and expanding locations. So Reputation has really helped us to manage these online listings and reviews significantly. So moving on to the next slide, I want to talk about first the importance of business listings. But as an overview, business listings and review response have become increasingly important to Ochsner from a consumerism perspective. As Lindsay talked about earlier, consumers are relying more and more for online listings to find their care and then looking to reviews and ratings to make empowered decisions about their care. A great example for us is about a year ago, we implemented star ratings and reviews on about half of our physician profiles on our website. And in that year, this past year, we've seen that provider profiles that have a star rating or review on them get a 20% higher click-through rate than those that don't. So just something to think about when you're thinking about the importance of transparency and allowing patients to make decisions based on ratings and reviews. So first I'll start with the power of business listings. Before you can manage what other people say about you with the review response process, you have to manage how you represent your brand online. And you do that by having very up-to-date, accurate, clean business listings that works in complete partnership with improving your SEO. So here's an example of one of our hospitals. This is a big hospital for us that has our entire women's pavilion. So if you're going to have a baby in the New Orleans area, this is where you go. And this is what we want to look like from a listings perspective. You know, we have a recognizable photo of the facility, a map, additional photos to look inside and outside the facility. You have that Google review star rating there showing us how we rank, and then accurate and complete contact information, including the address, the hours, the phone number, etc. So the next slide is just an example of how we want to look on mobile. So this probably looks familiar to everyone, but you have your star rating, address, hours, etc., just in mobile format. So these two examples are kind of where we are because of the Reputation.com platform and all the help that they've done for us with the business listings. We kind of, when we explain the program to executives and people throughout the system, business listings are really the foundation and the baseline of where you need to start, and it's what kind of like level one what Reputation.com does for us. My content team of 3 could not manage the listings and accuracy for these 100-plus locations, 400-plus providers outside of Ochsner.org. We're busy enough, you know, maintaining the website. So to crawl all these sites throughout the internet, it just would be impossible. So the piece of this tool has been very valuable for Ochsner as a system. It not only allows us to maintain a strong brand presence across the internet, but it also helps us improve SEO.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amber. Okay, so after all of the data is cleaned up on your site and across the web, you've got to make sure that you're engaging your patients by monitoring and responding to what they're saying online. The nice thing about a reputation management platform is that it compiles all of the reviews for you in one place. So you can see reviews as they come in real time from across the internet. You can also see high-level review trends, and you can see overall star ratings. You could also drill down by location or by doctor or by service area. You can respond to reviews from a single platform. One of the handy things that we see a lot of our healthcare clients leveraging is over here on the right-hand side, these pre-populated response templates that allow you to develop responses to many of the common reviews or many of the common questions that you may get online. You can work with your legal team to create responses that are HIPAA compliant and that your organization feels comfortable saying, as well as, you know, that reflect your brand. So now Amber's going to share how the Ochsner team is handling online reviews.
So this is kind of a high-level slide of our process for managing online reviews. So Reputation.com responds to all reviews for Ochsner, whether they be positive, negative, or neutral. We've drafted templated responses that reflect our tone, our brand style, and language that we've provided to the Reputation.com team. And these responses, we've also given several, I guess, different kind of levels 1, 2, and 3 for them for positive, negative, and neutral. That's been approved by our legal team and our brand team from a marketing perspective. We've also developed an escalation process. We've worked really close with our patient relations team. We wouldn't be able to do the service recovery without them. So that's another big part of our process. And then we're starting to train certain teams that are interested in responding to the reviews directly. So some of the service lines are seeing the momentum. They're seeing how they can give this real-time feedback and make a difference and really turn a negative experience into a positive one. So they're starting to jump on board and become super users of the program. So the next slide kind of details a little more about our process. So the reviews come in daily and Reputation.com responds on our behalf. But I also receive all the negative reviews in real time in my inbox for flagging and escalation purposes. And this may sound overwhelming for a health system our size, but it's actually quite manageable. I'm not responding to every single negative review. It's only those kind of what I call a red flag review. So, you know, anything dealing with profanity, harassment, and then things that are just a really bad service experience that I want to make sure that someone is addressing. The other thing that we've done as part of our process with patient relations is we developed a feedback inbox. So for all negative reviews, we ask the reviewer to give us more information so we can contact them personally, whether that be an email or a phone number. And we set up a feedback inbox through Ochsner's Outlook system where we ask them to reply. I have someone on my team who monitors that inbox daily and then sends the information to the appropriate patient relations contact. So the next slide is an example of a positive service recovery issue that we had with our access team. So in addition to all the work with patient relations, we've also expanded kind of the escalation process to our access team, which is our phone line, and then also our Epic team, my Ochsner team, which handles all of the online scheduling. Because a lot of the feedback we're seeing is long wait times, turned away when they checked in for their appointment, et cetera. So this is a great example of service recovery. So this review came in, this is a real review that came in a few weeks ago from a woman who was booked at kind of the wrong location, about an hour away from where she was located, but she was willing to go drive that far to do it. She went to the clinic, checked in on time, but then was told that the clinic was closing and she couldn't see her doctor. So I saw this and I escalated it immediately to our VP of Access because it just was a really bad experience. And even though the patient didn't write back to our feedback inbox, the Access team was able to look up her records via Epic and find out that her story was true. She did check in on time, but she was turned away for whatever reason at the service desk. So they contacted the patient immediately. They issued an apology, and they were able to reschedule her appointment closer to home, and she did come in. So through all that work, we were able to retain the patient and avoid leakage in that area.
That's a perfect segue into my next point about improving patient experience. So this is the final step in the Healthcare Marketer's Blueprint that I outlined. And I think that this is why most of you are doing what you're doing in healthcare to make sure that patients are getting the best care possible. And this is where the lines of marketing and operations are really starting to intersect, and it's really exciting. Just like what Amber said, we have all of this data and information that we can share with operations, and you can make very simple tweaks and changes to how care is delivered that make a huge impact. And often they're not even care related. So as marketers, we have access to this valuable information, and it can and should be used to share with operations and to improve patient care. Reputation management can give you these operational insights so that you can make data-driven decisions based on real patient feedback. And what we're seeing more and more is that our partner organizations are creating KPIs based on this data and based on the reports that are provided through our platform. Amber's going to walk you through what Ochsner is doing here because what they're doing is very impressive.
Thanks, Lindsay. So we have a full reporting process for all the work we're doing around reputation at Ochsner that has taken about 2 years to put into place with such a small team and just at the pace that the organization moves. So the dashboard allows us to put together all these reports, which is great, and makes our jobs easier in reporting out the data and empowering the operations team to make tweaks and changes to what they're doing based on the feedback. So one thing that we do, first and foremost, is we send automated monthly and quarterly executive summary reports. So you can see the example here on the right. It gives you a listing of the total reviews, how you're rating, your reputation score, among many other things. So we're sending these regular reports to our C-suite, to all of our community hospital CEOs and COOs and their operations teams, and then to all of our leaders for our 9 Center of Excellence service lines. And we've identified those Center of Excellence service lines as a system. We do all of our marketing efforts around them. They range from service lines like cardiology and cancer to women's and pediatrics. So in addition to just running the reports and sending them, I had to do what I like to call the reputation roadshow. So it did require in-person meetings and training with all of these groups. So they really could understand what Reputation.com does, why we're doing it, and how it could really help them at an operations level. And they were highly engaged when they saw this information in the data. They were super excited to kind of, have this information at their fingertips. The other thing that we do is we have automated email set up for specific service lines, mainly the Center of Excellence, and then for the regional areas as well. So a lot of the people, in addition to getting the report, they want to see, especially the negative reviews, in real time. So the tool allows us to set up an automated email that every time a review comes in, they're seeing it in their inbox and they can react to it quickly. And then we've also started to train super users to access the dashboard, to respond to reviews directly, and also run their own reports. So, it started kind of small with just these monthly and quarterly executive reports, and it's really grown into people wanting to kind of take ownership of their area and get more involved in the tool. The next slide is an example of kind of a custom report that we've set up, and this is specific to Ochsner. So this is our monthly snapshot report. Ochsner created this, and then Reputation generously offered to take it over and continue to produce it for us on a monthly basis. So this report actually involves reading all the reviews within that month and creating highlights. So as you can see, it highlights specific pain points, success points, and what are the kind of key issues going on that are most making patients most dissatisfied, and what are the things that we're doing well that's delighting them. So this has been a really great tool for the C-suite and operations teams as well, and we send this every month when we send that executive summary report. And the last big thing that we're doing that really shows you how invested we are in this initiative is we've tied the reputation score directly to our system-wide consumerism goal. So at Ochsner, we have goals at every level. They start with the C-suite and they trickle down into the divisions. And we have the consumerism goal, which involves a digital engagement metric, loyalty and retention metric, and now we've tied in the reputation score into it. So as you can see here on the right, we started out pretty low in 2016 when we just launched the program at a 190, and we really bumped that score up and all the work that we're doing. Now we're at a 386, which is strong for healthcare. It's above the healthcare industry average, which is that yellow line there. And we're trying to move our way into the hotel and restaurant benchmarks, which is aggressive considering that hotel and restaurant have really been in the review space a lot longer than healthcare. But that's where we're setting our sights. So our goal for 2018 is 484, and we're pretty confident with all the work that we're doing. Or we are confident that we're going to get there. But doing this and tying it into the goal really drives accountability across the entire system. Not only do they understand and appreciate, the work that we're doing from a marketing standpoint, but they know it doesn't all just fall on marketing shoulders. Like, they have to involve their operations team, the patient relations team has to be involved in order to provide, really listen to the voice of the customer and act upon that feedback. So in summary, we kind of gave you a nice packaged list of, the steps that it's going to take to launch your program or what we recommend. So first and foremost is educating your executives and leaders on listing management and the importance of it, that it really is kind of the baseline of your brand reflection, and it affects your SEO and how you come up in search. I'm sure many of you on the phone have heard, like, the web pages, we're not coming up in Google, and so this is a way to improve that. The other piece is demonstrating the value of review response and service recovery. The example that I showed is a great example of how you can turn a negative experience into a positive one. How we're listening to the voice of the customer, we're listening to them in real time, and we're acting upon what they're saying. Lindsay touched on this a little more than I did, but I'm happy to answer questions. But defining your priorities for listing. So what are the areas you want to update and track first? For us, we knew that it had to be every location because we wanted those accurate address and phone number listings. And then what are your system priorities? For Ochsner, it was our Center of Excellence service lines, because that's what we base all of our system priorities around. Starting with a pilot group is a great recommendation. You just don't want to bite off more than you can chew. So like our example of starting with 500 instead of 1,200, that's what we recommend, just kind of get your feet off the ground. And you could even test it for just 30 days. We took a lot longer than that, but whatever is comfortable for you to kind of get familiar with the dashboard and build your processes. And then lastly is taking the time for the road shows and the training. That was probably the most effective thing that I did to get buy-in for this program, is having that face time, walking through the reports with them and the dashboard and showing them all the capabilities and things that we're able to do in terms of marketing and consumerism through this program. So with that, I think we have time for plenty of questions.
Hi, thank you so much. That was an excellent presentation, Lindsay and Amber, and we do have quite a few questions, so let's get started. Sarah had a question about the reviews and whether the doctors, the individual doctors, get reviewed, or the practice as a whole.
So I'm happy to, this is Lindsay, I'm happy to step in and talk to you about that. So it really depends on what you're, like, where you're talking about. So if you're talking about Google My Business and the Google listings, there are some for practices, and then there are some for the individual providers. So it can be both. So that's why when I was walking through my slides, I talked about how the importance of maintaining, having the right information for all of your doctors and all of your locations, because a person is going to look for those either the doctor or the location, but they're also able to leave a review for a doctor or for a location. Now, when you're talking about on your own website, you can decide to do whatever you want, but knowing that third-party sites as well as search engine listing sites, they have review capabilities for individual doctors.
Okay. And sort of a related question was about the when somebody views a review on a doctor's profile, do they stay on the website, or do they go somewhere else to a third-party website?
That's another great question, and it can be done either way. So with our platform, you can have them leave a review on your own website, or you can have them send them out to a third-party site or a listing site to leave a review there. We know that people are, we also have the capability of pulling in kind of your patient satisfaction scores and creating star ratings based on those scores. So your Press Ganey or your HCAHPS, CG caps in the provider case, we can pull that information in, create a star rating, and then stream the actual written comments that pertain to the provider. So yeah, I'm not sure if I answered the question entirely, but
yeah, I think it sounds like it's flexible.
yes.
Okay, so another attendee has a question about seniors. They are the ones that are using medical services more than the rest of us. And do you have data about how they're actually, interacting with reviews?
I'm happy to take that one as well. And Amber, if you have any thoughts, feel free to chime in. What I found when I was at Duke and we were doing a bunch of consumer research is that you're right. Seniors are the ones that are often the high utilizers of care. But what we see is that they're often working with family members to help them make that decision. So for instance, my mom was working with her father. She was making all the decisions for her father when he was not doing well. And so what we find is that they are often deferring a lot of the decisions, and a lot of the research is happening by more of the, by their younger children.
Got it, okay. One attendee would like to know how the information gets to reputation.com, and I don't know whether that's something that's sort of customized by organization. So maybe both of you can respond to that. How do you actually provide that information? What happens if it changes? How does the health system manage that when information changes on their end?
Amber, do you want to talk about your process?
Yeah, so how we distribute the information or how the review information I'm unclear on the question.
I think it has to do with the listings, keeping the listings up to date.
Oh,
how do you get that information?
So for us on Ochsner's end, we manage, my team manages the website, so we have all of our locations listed, on the website in a location section. So I actually have a content manager who is frequently updating those as they change. So every time we have a change, we have a process where we send them to the reputation team. We let them know, oh, this location is closed, or the phone number changed, etc. And then they have a process, which maybe Lindsay can speak to a little more details about that. But once we give them the change update or the addition or the deletion, they have a process where they go out on all the sites and make the update.
Yeah. So basically, the data is loaded into our platform, and it identifies any discrepancies. We use the data that's provided by one of our clients or one of our customers as kind of the source of truth, and then we go out and identify all of the discrepancies that may exist out there on the web. And we can ingest data from a customer, from a client, in pretty much any format.
Okay, sounds good. So the next question, Amber, Teresa wants to know if your patient services area is involved. Are they trained as super users?
Some of them are, yes, not all of them. So we have, I think our team is around 20 to 30 patient relations contacts, and that is something that we're currently working on. I don't want to reveal too much, but Reputation does have some other tools and opportunity areas like a ticketing system that we're not using right now, but we're very interested in getting started in. So I have a few patient relations contacts who are currently super users and going in and using it, but it's just a couple out of the 20, 30. So once we get that ticketing system into place, our plans are to get the entire team in the dashboard and using it on a regular basis.
Okay. Another question from Alexander. When a review gets posted for a physician, do the reviews come back in real time?
Yes, they do. Yeah, so if a review is posted for a physician on, say, Google or Bing or Facebook, it's going to appear in the dashboard in real time, and there are different alerts that you can set up so that you will know whether a certain location gets a review or whether it's a negative review, like Amber said, or a positive review. But yes, it happens within a matter of seconds.
Okay. This is a specific question about Yext. Amelia would like to know, can Reputation.com override and suppress duplicate listings like Yext, or is this just a consolidation tool?
Yes, it can override and suppress duplicate listings. That's one of the things that we do is audit all of your listings and make sure that there is a single listing for each location and for each doctor, and then making sure that the data, the correct contact information is associated with all of those listings.
Okay. And one attendee would like to know about how you're handling, just to elaborate more on service recovery and how you're handling that. I know you gave one example. Maybe you can give a couple of other examples of things that come up.
Yeah, so I did a couple this morning. If I see something, comes into my inbox, I always check them. I probably get a couple a day. And for ones that are, kind of just more general, like not the best bedside manner, or I waited for 30 minutes, things like that, I usually just file them because Reputation is responding on our behalf. But let me give, I'm trying to think of an example from this morning. There was one about our Kenner facility that it was pretty flagrant and, had the words like, Ochsner Kenner killed my father, anything like that, I'm going to red flag and escalate it to that operations team immediately. So most of the time, like 99% of the time, they're aware of that patient experience and what happened already at the patient relations level. But I like to get the CEO and COO involved. They want to be very involved. but they're allowed, it allows them to like check in with patient relations at their area and say, has this been addressed? What's the status? So I'm on a chain right now, kind of back and forth, and patient relations has reached out to that person, gotten the full story, etc. So that's another example of what we do in escalating it, and we kind of do things like that. I'd say a few times a week. I'm forwarding kind of, quote, red flag reviews to the right people. And then some of the more lower level ones, I just send them directly to the patient relations contact, and they let me know, like, thanks for sending. I'm following up with the patient right now. I don't always, one of the things that we want the ticketing system for is we're not 100% closing the loop on every single one. Like, I'm punching them to the right people, but I'm not always sure if they're getting addressed. So that's something that we hope that ticketing system is really going to help us with.
Okay, great. So on a completely different topic, one of the attendees would like to know how many reviews it takes to increase your ranking on Google.
That is a great question, and not one that I feel equipped to answer. I think it's relative, but I'm not entirely sure, and I don't want to misspeak. So I'd be happy to follow up with that, the person that asked directly, if we have their name.
Okay, sounds good. Another person would like to know if you work with nursing homes as well as physicians in hospitals.
Yes, we do. We have several large nursing home facilities, as well as the long-term acute care hospital providers that we work with.
Okay. And James would like to know if your software populates Doximity and WebMD for physicians.
That's a great question. I do believe that we work with WebMD. I am not entirely sure about Doximity, so that's something I would have to follow up with them about.
Another question about search directories that Reputation doesn't support, such as Yelp and Yellow Pages. And if your information is incorrect on these listings, is there any way for you to control it, or is that kind of out of your sphere?
So yeah, Yelp is they're kind of a unique provider in that sense. But so there's very little that that Reputation.com can do to control what's happening in the Yelp sphere, and that is the case with most reputation management platforms that exist out there. Yelp has a couple providers that they work with, and that is it.
So I can kind of chime in as a customer of Reputation. So we bake like a separate budget in for Yelp to manage our listings. So we don't do all of our providers right now because that would get pretty pricey. So we do all of our locations, and we've done a similar process of working with Yelp. It's on a much smaller scale. We don't get a lot of reviews on Yelp right now for our area. Most of our reviews are coming in on Google, Facebook, Healthgrades, and Vitals. But we do get some. So we have kind of, as part of our overall reputation management program, we have a little bit of budget baked in for the Yelp business listings, and then we have trained some of the marketing contacts to go in and update listings or make changes and run ads if needed.
Okay. Someone would like to find out, they've had problems with third-party sites such as WebMD and Vitals, and they were wondering how Reputation.com can make things better, can combat that problem.
Well, not knowing exactly what their problems are, what we can do is we can help them establish the appropriate information for their doctors and for their locations. And then we have pipes into all of these different sites, these specialty sites, these third-party sites, and we can make sure that that information is maintained. And again, we do nightly auditing, so that information is going to be reviewed nightly, and it will be compared to the file, the source file that the healthcare system provides to us.
Yeah, Lindsay, let me just elaborate a little bit on that. It's claiming profiles that was the challenge.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's part of the process as well. That's part of the whole business listing process, is claiming profiles. So we help claim profiles on all of the major listing sites. We because they're providing us with a file of here are our doctors and here are our locations, we're able to go out there and make sure that they're all claimed and that the right information, the right contact information is associated with these various different providers, because I know that it is often incorrect. So we can do that.
Okay. Another attendee looks like they're having a conflict with Press Ganey, who says that Press Ganey owns the data. How do I have that conversation with them to use star ratings from Reputation.com?
That is a really wonderful conversation, and one that I think I should probably take offline, but we have been able to successfully work with clients who use Press Ganey and to calculate star ratings for those clients. So I think we can probably work with that person, and I'd love to chat with them offline on how the best way to do that.
Okay. Here's a little bit more technical question. Does Reputation.com provide the deduped data back to the health system to update their EHR? Can that be done in Epic?
That's a great question, and I think that is entirely possible. You can easily export the data from our platform and then share it with whoever you need to internally. And actually, I'm hearing that a lot from our clients, that marketing is now becoming a source of data for their entire organization. So the marketing teams are often getting hit up by multiple different internal teams to provide the accurate data for their providers and for their locations. I know that when I was at Duke, we were trying to send physical mailings of like a magazine to all of our providers, and we could not get a list of addresses for the providers. So I guess just reiterating the fact that I know how difficult it can be to get all of this information gathered, and that once you do all that work, that often your organization is then leveraging you more for the data.
Okay. Next question is about trends. How do you identify trends in data and the specific things that attendees interested in are patient satisfaction, Reputation.com, and incident reporting?
How do you identify trends? So in our platform, we've got various different ways to look at the data. There's different graphs. You can look at your star rating by physician, by clinical location. You can look at how many reviews. You can look at the sentiment of the reviews, so whether it's positive, negative, or neutral. And you can really slice and dice that in a bunch of different ways, and that really helps you identify trends. We also have what we call a tornado chart, and let me just go back a couple slides if I can. We'll help give you a visual. Let me see. This is what I'm referencing, a tornado chart. But basically, with our natural language processing, which basically it takes all of the review sentiment and it identifies trends based on what people are saying, and then it categorizes it. So these categories are flexible. But here you can see one is competence, one is satisfaction, one is convenience, one is communication. So it identifies like where you're doing well and maybe where you're not doing well based on the review sentiment and what people are saying about you. So that's another way that we can identify trends. We also have a word cloud feature that I think you've all seen word clouds, but it'll bring up things like nursing, and that'll be the very large relative to all of the other words. And if it's green, that means that people are saying really great things about nursing. And then you can click on that word and dive in a little bit deeper and see all of the comments that are associated with nursing. So there's a lot. I think one of the really great things that Reputation.com does is it provides you with really, really deep analytics so that you can get these insights and you can identify these trends and really so that you can improve patient care.
Okay, when updates are made to providers' records in Reputation.com, does it trigger automatic updates to other sources like the call center?
That's it kind of speaks to the question earlier. I think it just depends on how we have it set up. And if that is a place where data needs to be pushed, then it can absolutely be pushed to someplace like a call center, because it's a great point. With our directory management tool, we absolutely can do that with business listings. it's not necessarily baked in, but it's something that you could export and give it to your call center on like a daily or weekly basis, which we see a lot of clients doing.
Okay, well, it's 3 o'clock. We're getting to the bottom of the list of questions, but we'll keep going and just try to answer as many as possible in the next couple of minutes. Does Reputation update listings on health grades? The answer is probably yes.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I'm not entirely sure the technical aspects of that, but I know that we do update listings on health grades. I think it's a little bit more manual than some of the other sites that we work with.
Okay. Does Reputation.com respond to Google reviews?
We can, yes, absolutely. That's what we see. The #1 review sources, Facebook and Google, and so you can absolutely respond to Google reviews directly from our platform. So they're pulled in, and then you can also respond to them from the platform.
Another person would like to know if the whole enterprise at Ochsner has access to Reputation.com that deals with doctors. Every person that deals with doctors. 2-part question. And how many people actually have access to it?
Amber, you might have mute.
I don't, I'd say roughly off the top of my head right now, probably 20.
20 people have access to it?
To the dashboard, yeah. Like that's rough, that's how many. Some of it includes marketers, a few patient relations. We have a whole retail division. We own a hotel, some fitness centers, so we have some people at the retail side, and that's a little bit of a different animal. So they're also bringing in Expedia reviews, bookings, etc. So yeah, I'd say off the top of my head, if I had to round it all up, it's about 20 people.
So 20 people have access to the system.
Yeah, it's unlimited seating, so it's as many as you want. And for us, it's just been a matter of who was interested in being trained. And you have to consider that this is at some levels they see it as additional work. So we're trying to make it as easy for them as possible by giving them those automated email updates and the reports. But if they're willing to get in and learn, we're definitely willing to train them. And you can limit access too. So for retail, they only have access to their areas, so they're not going to be able to, affect or mess with my reporting or anything that I see. So we have kind of different views when we log in and different access.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the bottom of our list of questions. So we're going to close it off for today. It's been an excellent session, and I'd like to thank the presenters for sharing their experience with our attendees and for Reputation.com for sponsoring the event. Thank you for the attendees for contributing so many and such great questions. One final reminder, we'll send an email to all attendees with a link to the presentation slides, and you'll receive a link to access the recording as soon as it's been processed and available for viewing. So thank you for participating, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.